Have you struggled with your romantic relationships? If so, today's video is just for you. We're going to be talking all about attachment styles and the impact that they have on our relationships. My name is Kelly Brandley. I'm a dating and relationship coach, and I help men and women just like you find the one and go on to create an amazing relationship. Today's video is all about attachment styles. We're going to talk about what they are, how they impact our relationships, and how you can overcome your attachment style to create a healthy, loving, and long-term connected relationship. For many who struggle with building a healthy, long-term relationship, you might experience this sense of deja vu with each new relationship. You think you've chosen a completely different partner, maybe the opposite of what you had before, and then you're surprised to find out that the same patterns and experiences seem to repeat themselves in one relationship after another. Well, attachment style might just be the answer that you've been looking for. As human beings, we're all drawn by the feeling of wanting to belong. In fact, we have both this evolutionary need to belong to something in order to survive, but we also have strong emotional needs to be connected and intimate with somebody, to be able to share our innermost thoughts and feelings. John Bowlby is a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst who has done extensive research in the relationships that babies and young children form with their primary caregivers, usually their parents. And what he found is that these initial relationships children have with their primary caregivers form the basis and influence how they develop relationships as adults. And this includes not only romantic relationships, but also relationships with siblings, friends, and even with your coworkers. During childhood, the way that our primary caregivers relate to us forms our experiences with closeness, intimacy, love, and affection. And it really also influences how we think about ourselves. If our parents are available and can meet our needs, we think we're lovable and we're a great person. But if for some reason they can't do that, we make it mean something about ourselves, and we start to think that we're not lovable, we're not good enough, maybe there's something damaged about us that we need to fix in order to find love. So if, unfortunately, you grew up in a home where your parents weren't as emotionally available and attuned to you as you would have liked, what happened is you likely developed coping behaviors to deal with this. And what John Bowlby recognized is children develop one of two ways of coping. They either become anxious and very worried, or they become avoidant and learn to become very independent. Those people who grew up in a very secure, loving home developed secure attachment and generally have low levels of anxiety or avoidance. Some of us who we call preoccupied or anxiously attached develop these coping mechanisms of becoming very clingy, very needy, and wanting constant external validation that they were lovable or that they're cared for. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our avoidant, who have a high level of avoidance, who tend to be emotionally unavailable and actually move away from close connection rather than towards it. And finally, we have this fourth style, which are high both on anxiety and avoidance. And we tend to call these people either disorganized or fearfully avoidant. So how do these different attachment styles show up in our relationships? Well, securely attached individuals generally have an easy time getting into relationships and maintaining these relationships and moving them forward. They're able to depend on their partners, show vulnerability, and they're confident that the relationship is going to go the distance. These type of people are very content in relationships, but they don't have a fear of being on their own. They're not afraid if a relationship ends that they'll be alone for the rest of their life. They know that they will find somebody new and perhaps somebody who's a better fit. In contrast to those with secure attachment, individuals with insecure attachment tend to have challenges either getting into a relationship or maintaining a relationship over time. So the preoccupied or anxious person, I also love the metaphors by Stan Tatkin in his book Wired for Dating. He calls these people the waves, and I love this image because they're the type of people that tend to come, they want more, and then they come back wanting more again. They need this constant validation, and so that's why people describe them as being clingy or very needy. So these type of people, because of this high need of approval and support, they struggle to actually regulate their own nervous system on their own, which is why they feel best when they're in a relationship. Even if it's not the healthiest of relationship, it feels much better than being on their own. These people have a strong fear of being abandoned or left by their partners. And because of this constant worrying, this is why they tend to be quite clingy and needy, wanting to know where they are all the time, wanting to somehow control their schedule so there's not too much time where they're left alone. The avoidant dismissive person, Stan Tatkin calls the island. And again, I think this is a great visual for these people. These are the people who feel very content on their own. They don't want to depend on somebody because they don't know if they can rely on that person in a time of need. So rather than giving dependence to somebody else, they keep it all to themselves and stay very independent. They can be quite emotionally unavailable to some people because they're scared of sharing vulnerability and actually developing a really deep sense of intimacy. For these people, when the relationship starts to deepen and become more intimate, they feel trapped or suffocated. And so what they either do is they do something to distance themselves from their partner, or they may end the relationship altogether, feeling too overwhelmed by the connection that they at the beginning were so desperate and longing for. Finally, we have the disorganized or the fearful avoidant person, or the island wave combination. The typical characteristic of this type of attachment style is one of confusion, ambivalence, or what people describe as blowing hot and cold. Fearful avoidant people desire a deep connection and intimacy similar to an anxious person. However, they have a huge problem in being able to trust another person that they won't hurt them. And for this reason, they're constantly looking for signs that could be an indication that they will be hurt or they'll be abandoned or they'll be used. And so they're very, very suspicious of relationships. And as a result of this, they can flip-flop very quickly from feeling this is the greatest relationship I've ever had to suddenly I need to end this relationship. I can't trust this person. I don't know what's going on here. And this for the partner can be extremely confusing and might leave them baffled as what's going on in the relationship. If you've listened to this point in the video, there's a high likelihood that you don't belong to the 50% of people with secure attachment. And so for the other half of us with insecure attachment, this is what you've likely experienced, these repeating patterns. So we tend to attract what we are. Securely attached people tend to attract other securely attached people, and insecurely attached people. One common sign of an insecurely attached relationship, in addition to things like emotional unavailability, distrust, neediness, or clinginess, is the on-off relationship. And we can describe this as the cat and mouse relationship. In this case, what we see is the avoidant person, when the relationship gets too intense or deepens too much, they will disengage or try to run from the relationship. Then the anxious person starts to chase them like the cat chasing the mouse. And this is then this showing up of neediness and clinginess because they need that validation that the relationship is in fact okay. At this point, many relationships will end. But once both partners have calmed down and regulated their emotional systems, the avoidant person often comes back to the anxious person who is very ready and open to taking them back. This results in this on-off relationship, and many people can continue this cycle for years, if not decades, without understanding the dynamics of what creates this pattern and how attachment style is likely at play. If you've struggled with relationships, you may be asking yourself where you stand on the spectrum of anxious or avoidant. So I invite you to take a short quiz on my website, in which will give you an initial indication of what your attachment style. I'll put the link in the description below, and you're welcome to take that quiz. It's a very short quiz, but it will give you that first sense of which of these categories you most likely fall into. And then once you understand that, the question is, how do you get help in overcoming secure attachment? So just like a secure person may become insecure after a traumatic event or the loss of a loved one, similarly, insecurely attached people can become more securely attached by working on the underlying issues that lead to secure attachment. I always say you first need to become the one before you're going to find the one. So ways to become more securely attached include understanding, first of all, what your attachment style is. So go ahead and take that quiz right after this video. Get support in resolving any past traumas you've had. You want to work on your communication skills, both your verbal as well as your non-verbal, which are very, very important. You want to develop a strong sense of self-love, self-respect, understanding, and compassion for yourself. And finally, you want to get into a relationship with somebody who has a secure attachment style, because that will give you the safety and security that you need to know that that person is not going to be leaving you anytime soon. If you are interested to learn what it's going to take to create deeper intimacy and overcome your own issues related to trust, maybe people pleasing or fear of commitment, then I would love to have a chat with you. So take this opportunity to book a free breakthrough coaching call with me, where we'll review your results from the attachment style quiz, and we'll put together a plan that's going to help you become more securely attached in the next 90 days. So you too can find the one and build a healthy, loving relationship. Thanks for listening. I will see you again on the next video.